Well, because Pinocchio's right hand caught on fire. 5, 4, 3. Hey, Trekkers! Welcome to another episode of Trek Tonight. And this, of course, is our series on Picard Season 3. And I want to welcome Angela. Angela, you look lovely tonight.
Don't I, though? I trimmed the beard and everything for it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Actually, folks, Angela Alverson was supposed to be here tonight, but had both a work emergency and a flat tire. So the universe, as she said,
really didn't want to be on the show, did she?
No, I think she did. But as she said, the universe was conspiring against her. Yeah. And at the 11th hour, our dear friend Keith said he would step in and join us tonight. So we're thrilled about that. And we will have Angela on a subsequent week. Later on, we just have to schedule her in. Right. So at any rate, and hopefully she gets her tire fixed and there's not a big problem at work. So at any rate, how you doing, guys?
You know, not bad. An excellent episode this week.
Oh yeah,
just to paint it in a single color. I quite enjoyed this episode. So top that, Keith.
I think it is my favorite episode of Picard Season 3 so far.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's saying a lot because they've all been pretty good.
They've all been pretty good. I've liked all of them, but and specifically, it's my favorite for one reason, or dare I say it, one character.
I bet I know who that is.
Yes, indeed. Worf.
Yeah.
Son of Sergei.
Yes, Worf definitely stole the show. Hey, we got a thumbs up from Wilson Hunter this evening.
Hi, Wilson.
Hi, Wilson. Thank you for watching the program. And Eric Cutts is back. Evening, gents. Glad to see they still have beer in the 21st century. Hope it is not that mass-produced replicator crap. And Craig Lubin is here. Says Worf.
Yes.
Yeah. Worf was amazing in this. Some great interplay between he and Rafi. As Leo said in the green room earlier, he would watch a Worf and Rafi show, and I certainly agree with that.
Spin-off where they go investigating, solving crimes in the 20th century. And just dive in a little bit about Michael Jordan's performance. There's a very subtle difference in both the way he carries himself and the way he speaks. And part of that is obvious, like his voice is different than it was, 20 or so years ago.
Sure.
But there is, if you look at those old, both DS9 episodes and TNG episodes, he always seemed to be at the verge of an angry outburst. Like he always seemed like he was holding in his rage, and this seems like a Worf who seems much more at peace with himself, which is...
Well, as Eric says, when did Worf become a Vulcan, or is he just very zen?
I think he's become like a samurai. He's this sort of this Zen monk, figure. I'm conflating Asian culture, so you'll forgive me, but he's Officer Chamomile tea, which I assume because it's late and he doesn't want to have any caffeine. Keith looks his nose down a little bit because Keith is quite the tea aficionado.
Yes.
But chamomile's a safe bet if you want to have something
light.
Something light in the evening, and you don't want to load up on the caffeine.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because once again, Worf is complex in the sense that he's very zen. He talks to I'm skipping ahead a bit, but when they capture the guy and he's talking to him about, basically his peace, love, and understanding routine, playing the good cop between the two of them. And yet he kicked everybody's ass in the episode before.
Oh yeah. I mean,
he beheaded people. Now beheading is for Wednesdays.
Yes.
As we know. But
you gotta keep the schedule.
Even in this episode, so Rafi has no idea what's going on, know. So she wakes up on I assume Worf's ship, but maybe Worf's apartment.
That's her ship.
That's her ship. Okay,
which
was,
her ship. Was Rios' ship. I keep wanting to say the Rocinante, but that's the wrong show.
Yeah.
La Serena.
La Serena.
Yes. Yeah. So she's approaching him with a drawn phaser.
Yeah.
Because she has no idea who the fuck this is doing a sword kata. A batleth kata on her ship.
Right.
And then, boom! All of a sudden, snick snack, and all of a sudden, Worf's got the phaser and going, fair, okay then.
Yeah. He takes it and then sort of immediately hands it over back to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he throws one of those tri-knives again. All these Klingon weapons end with apostrophe leth, batleth, mechleth, and so on. Yeah. I assume leth means weapon in Klingonese.
Perhaps. If anybody out there knows, let us know.
Yeah. But I did love his more centered approach, and later on he criticizes Rafi for wearing a hood. He says it makes you look conspicuous. And
which made us laugh because yesterday Leo and I were wearing the hoods to do our Jedi thing, and we were both talking about looking kind of shady with the hoods. And then they said that, and Leo got a smile. I actually laughed out loud. But it was
because it's in science fiction. Apparently, in the far future, hoods are still a perfectly cromulent fashion statement,
right?
And they're very much in the past. The closest we have now are hoodies, which not quite as they're more common, but I'm not sure if that's the 21st century equivalent of a long coat with a hood or a cloak with a hood. His whole attitude, he accuses him of being dressing like a Klingon warrior. Says this is casual wear.
Yeah.
So
I will say that Worf definitely stole the show.
Yes,
there's a lot of exciting things going on. There was some interesting stuff between Picard and Dr. Crusher. We get into the sort of the elephant in the room about why she kept it a secret, that she had a son by Picard, so that gets talked out and it gets a little heated.
And it's not resolved, which I was glad. I like.
Yes.
Sometimes especially in not a serialized, but like a syndicated format, people have problems and they usually work it out by the end of the show.
Right.
Not always, but most times. So it's good to see that still hanging up, and everybody's a little fucked up, in this show. Should we now move a little bit, go back to the Titan and talk about what's going on there?
Yeah. They're in a bind because they're stuck there. You know what? I want to do this because, for anyone, obviously I'm a little bit late on this, but where is it in here? But for anybody who has not seen the episode, spoiler alert.
Yes.
Oh boy, yeah. I just wanted to. It's my toy.
Yes.
I wanted to throw that up there. At any rate, what was I going to say? Yeah, they're really in a bind because Vedic really has all the toys.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
That is
again, I'm a little disappointed because, in my opinion, I thought that the Titan was kind of a kick-ass ship. Now, it may be that I'm being misled because of how it's represented in Lower Decks.
well. Here's the thing: is I think it is a kick-ass ship,
Mm-hmm.
but it is primarily a scientific vessel. Not that they don't have torpedoes and phaser banks, but the Strike is a warship. I mean, there's it's like they list off that laundry list of weaponry she's packing, her ordnance, plus as we discover the unknown bit of technology that we will see towards the end of the episode. So,
man, that's a pain in the butt. Oh my God.
Yeah.
By the way, I just wanted to throw out there, just jumping back, Eric does say that there's a lot of tension in the episode, both personal and otherwise.
Yeah,
it's
true.
That's
very true.
Yeah, regarding the Titan getting its ass handed to it by the Shrike, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And now, if the Enterprise F shows up, I got the right number, right?
Yeah.
If the Enterprise F shows up and goes against the Shrike and has its ass handed to it just as easily, well, then I might have problems. But even the original Titan, which was a kick-ass ship, and I believe, according to some things I've read, was fitted out as a warship as opposed to a science ship.
I think it was designed. It was the lore is, and this is a little maybe apocryphal because it's from the books and not never appeared on screen till Lower Decks. Is that it was designed and built during the Dominion War.
Right.
So, but
right. And okay, so to go to another resource, and I like to think of it as very canon and accurate because I feel like they did their research. But when you look at the description of it in the source books for Star Trek Adventures, the role-playing game,
yes,
there is a whole section on the Luna class.
Yeah,
and it talks about the history of it, that it was built to replace the Galaxy class as an exploration ship. And then the Dominion War started, so they sort of put a halt to that, and then they did other things. And then when the war ended, they came back and started to produce the Luna class. Now, this Titan, even though it is a refit, is called a Neo Constitution class ship. So maybe it's not as kick-ass.
It might not be
as the original Luna was. The only reason that I feel, and this is really nerdy, guys, but the only reason that I feel the Luna class is kick-ass is because it was the ship we used in our role-playing game.
Yes.
And we felt that it was really kick-ass when we used it in the game.
It was.
And it did very well in combat in those games.
So here's what I read somewhere regarding this version of the Luna.
Right. Yeah.
Take out our toys. Let's go ahead.
That's right. By the way, you should put up a graphic that says "Nerd Alert."
Yeah, I should make a Nerd Alert. Yeah,
because this thing up here on top of the roll bar is an interchangeable pod.
Yes,
and as I understand, in Riker's ship, this pod is the version of this pod up here is a weapons pod. So, and I'm pretty sure the Titan A is a new build ship. Yeah, there we go. Well done, sir. Well done. Anyway,
yeah.
I think Titan A is less a refit and more of a new ship, but they took a lot of the guts of this thing.
Yeah.
And put it into the new Titan.
Right.
Yeah, because I think they stripped down the old Titan and kept a lot of the like stuff inside and rebuilt the outside. So
right.
I said I'm not. I think if the Strike if they were comparable, this wouldn't be as exciting.
Right.
And
well, obviously, yes.
And Riker last week described it as a guillotine.
Yeah.
And somebody else this week said, yeah, it's, I think it's who was it either Beverly or was it Seven who said it's a warship?
Yeah.
It's not. They're not. This is not a. This is. There's not a lot of sensors for gaseous anomalies.
Right.
Tracking
Yes.
or stellar cartography.
For instance, if this thing were to go up against, say, the Defiant,
or a giant cat.
or a giant cat, yeah, I've just
Space
left
cat.
the and saber on here.
Yeah.
He's gonna. Oh, by the way, notice in honor of the fact that Worf is in the show, I've got my Klingon version of the Star Trek Adventures book back here.
Gotcha. That's great.
Anyway, I think we've gone maybe too far into the weeds on this one.
Yes.
Now, I just want to say a final thing. I am so envious the fact that you scored that Luna class just as Eagle Moss went out of business. Because
man, if I had known they were going to go belly up, I'd have bought a couple more ships than I did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, believe me, by the time I got around to looking for it, they were all gone. So you are a lucky man.
We all have it. Well, okay. Let's not. Okay, let's get out of the weeds and get back to.
Yeah. Oh wait. Yeah, there's a show going on. Sorry about that.
Yeah, right, exactly. This isn't our regular Saturday night
So
chat.
this is a little bit like the end of Wrath of Khan, and they're hiding in the nebula.
Yes.
And they're trying to repair the ship, and they keep finding them. They keep being found by the Shrike, and it's a mystery. It's a big mystery as to what's going on.
Right.
And one of the times they get attacked, Captain Shaw gets flung across the bridge, cracks his head on one of those railings.
Yeah.
And he transfers command to Riker.
Okay. Now wait a minute. You want the clip?
Yes, play the clip. Yes.
Because this is the only clip I have for tonight. So let me play the clip.
Bridge, visual contact of the Shrike. Bearing 047, 3,000 meters and closing.
Battle stations! That's impossible. How the hell did she find us?
Again.
Ooh, spitting up blood. Never a good sign.
You got us into this. You are gonna get us out. Computer, transfer command, Captain William Riker Proton. Authorization Shaw. 1211 Bravo Delta.
Command transfer
Get her
authorized.
to sickbay.
Captain, we still have visual. She's right behind us.
Admiral, can you roll and not fire a single photon torpedo halfway between us and them? Key the phasers, light it up. The concussion should...
Torpedo away.
It worked, Captain. We may have shaken her.
Thank you, Jean-Luc.
Well, I think it might be time you called me number one.
Very exciting scene.
Yep.
They definitely, you could tell that these are two people who've served together a long time because they've probably done that maneuver more than once.
Right.
Because he's like, as he's describing it, you're like, what is he doing? And he's like, put you away, and he fires concussive, knocks the Shrike, into the nebula. But it was that wonderful shorthand that they had.
Right.
Yeah, that was great.
And you better start calling me number one, which was a nice moment.
Yeah, it was. And then you had that little bit again.
Yeah.
Music, little throwback music there at the end of that moment. And of course, it wouldn't be an episode with battle stuff on the bridge if Craig wasn't here to say circuit breakers. They still don't have them in the 25th century, apparently.
No,
I was thinking about you, Craig.
They
Craig's
have
big
drama.
bugaboo.
That's what it's called. It's called
Yep.
drama.
Yep.
But so when they bring Shaw down to the sick bay, and Beverly's been down there like patching people up, and the chief medical officer was a Trill, and I don't think we've heard her name, or if we heard it so quick.
No, I don't
She's
think
like,
so.
it would take me too long to explain everything that's changed since you were last year, so just stay out of her way. But Beverly has not been idle these past 20 years.
Right.
What she's doing. And when Shaw comes in, she's trying to figure out, like, because she's like, are you having trouble breathing? And they flip him over, and apparently they scan them for an internal bleeding, but it doesn't always pick it up depending on special circumstances, which he's in. And then Jack's over there holding him down. He's like, and the kid, I will say that again, this is another tick in the Shaw box, positive tick, is he's like, how does she keep finding us? How do we?
Right.
And he's like, he's still acting as captain. He's still concerned about his crew. He's not he's not gold bricking. He's not, whining about, how he's hurt. He still wants to find out, like, why his ship is in danger, and the blood in the water, for a moment, I thought it was going to be like Jack's blood has some particular thing that they could scan, and that would have been a little, not great. It would have been, but as we find out, there has been sort of a blood in the water here in the nebula. A particular bit of radiation has been leaking, and not through accident, but through
sabotage.
Yeah. And this is when we get our first clue as to who the big bads are for this season.
I know, and I've got to say, I am really thrilled that they kept this so under their hat.
Oh yeah,
that you didn't know who the big bad was from all the trailers and everything else, and it was a nice surprise.
It was. I'd much rather be surprised by something like that than know ahead of time.
Right.
Because they're trying. He in Seven. He springs Seven from her confinement.
Yeah.
And they're tracking it, and she's like, all right, because they have to wear these masks because this gas is leaking in this chamber. So, well, I got to go to this other one. We're going to fix everything. And then this guy who heard referred to online is Ensign Side Eyes, the guy in the gold uniform.
Right.
He was standing next to the woman looking out the back windows, and he starts like beating the hell out of Jack, knocks the gas off his thing, and Jack punches him, like gives him like a really solid punch to the face, and his face gets all weird. I'm like, is that? And it is. Spoiler alert. He is a changeling, as we find out.
I literally went, a founder?
Yeah.
I said that out loud when I saw that. That's a big cat.
Eric Hutt says, that's a big cat.
He is.
Yes, it is a big cat, Eric.
Saber, the unofficial mascot of Trek Tonight.
Yeah, that's Saber. Saber has been on screen many times.
Yes. He has good representation.
He does. He does. He gets booked frequently. Yeah, no, and I've got to say, I thought it was a neat surprise, and I also think that it's going to be interesting. Keith and I were talking early this morning about this because in all the trailers, you've seen Lore, you've seen Moriarty, we have Captain Vedic, and everybody's assumed they're the big bad guys, but no, we have the changelings come back.
I have a theory, and I don't know if now is the time for it, but I do have a theory.
Go ahead.
That ties together most everything except I don't understand yet what's going on with Son of Picard and the Shrike and Vedic, but it ties together pretty much everything else. And it wasn't until you reminded me in chat about Lore and Moriarty that these pieces clicked for me. Because I had forgotten about Lord Moriarty. So Worf and Rafi are investigating what's going on with the portal weapon.
Yes.
And they decide that the portal weapon was just a distraction from the real threat, and maybe there's something else missing. You all
That cat is
cats
is actually a changeling.
Yeah.
all cats are changing. They're both a liquid and a solid at the same time.
Their plasma.
Yes. Um, that something else was stolen from the Daystrom Institute, and the portal weapon was just a cover up.
So here's the question: is that lore? Was lore what was stolen?
I think it's lore, and I think lore is stolen. And if I remember correctly, when Moriarty was created originally, he was created with the command prompt: create an adversary capable of beating Data.
Yes.
I think they're going to recruit Moriarty to help defeat Lore.
Maybe that would be a really interesting idea. I like that.
Interesting.
And also, there is a possibility, if we want to go the redemption arc, that the two roles are reversed. That they stole, because as I recall, they put Moriarty in some sort of box that was supposed to contain a world for him to exist
like
in,
a universe, like he could explore. Yeah.
A universe that he could explore, and he wouldn't even know that it was a universe. He would think he was in the real one.
Yes.
By the way, he might be pissed about that when he finds out the truth.
Understandably, we skipped over a very crucial scene when Picard and Beverly finally have like a conversation.
Yes.
About Jack, and it starts out with a huge awkward silence, which was great.
Yeah.
Like they didn't like immediately leap into it. They're just sort of looking at each other like, okay. And the whole thing is she got, they had an on again, off again relationship. And she got pregnant when they were on leave, and you were called away early. And then, you were attacked by these people, and then kidnapped by these people. Then these other people will disrupt your head. And she's like, it was always like that with you. I didn't want to bring up a child of that.
Right.
And also the idea that the son of Picard would have a target on his back.
Yeah.
And Picard, she's like, you wouldn't give it up. You repeatedly say you didn't want to have a family because you didn't want to be like your dad.
Right.
And he says, well, I know now after last season,
right,
I wouldn't be like my father, but I could have figured that out 20 years ago. Like he's angry that she didn't give him a chance. Like
he gets steamed.
And I, there are two conflicts between characters who know each other in this one.
Yeah.
One of them I thought was well done. One of them I'm going, I don't really buy this one. This is the one I thought was well done because Picard finds out he's a father, and she took the choice of being a father to his son away from him.
Yeah.
And I can get behind that, and I'm all on Team Picard's side in that argument.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Until at the very end of the argument, Beverly says that Crusher says that I know I can protect my son. I'm not sure that I can protect yours.
Right.
And that's going, yeah.
Well, and also too, the ouch moment for me was when she says, well, I told him who you were and where to find you, and he decided not to.
Right.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt.
That's gotta hurt.
That was kind of like, ouch. Okay.
I honestly, like, Jack seems real angry at Picard, but let's face it, it's like Picard didn't do anything. Picard didn't even know he existed until like a day ago.
Right.
Or, hours.
Yeah.
So like he's got no, like, real, like, he doesn't have a legitimate gripe.
No, and I will say I'm really happy with the way they're scripting Jack, because he's not David.
No.
Right.
David had this real chip on his shoulder about Kirk, and he was, and then it took practically up to his death for him to absolve Kirk,
Right.
And again, Kirk, I don't remember whether Kirk knew or not. I don't remember, but
Kirk,
He did.
I think he did because I stayed away.
right.
You know,
Oh, right. But the thing I like about Jack is, yeah, he's a little miffed, and he does make that one line with Riker about no, he's not Dad, you
Right.
know, which I thought was an interesting thing. But he's also like a really good egg.
Mhm.
He is a good egg, but he's sort of like this. Like he doesn't go the straight and narrow, but he is like, you know, when he was working in the sick bay, he's like, "You're okay. You lost a lot of blood. The good news,
We've got blood. Yeah,
we've got plenty of it."
yeah,
We also find out that he went to school in London and didn't shake the accent.
yeah,
So I guess accents aren't hereditary in
yeah.
yeah.
Although she
the
does say
future.
maybe it's maybe
Maybe
it's
it's
in the
in his DNA. Yeah,
Yeah.
which I thought that was cute. That was a
that was
cute.
cute.
Way
That was
of
fine.
explaining that. Yeah.
But
But
and
yeah,
there was
no,
also-
I think Jack is an interesting character, and I'm enjoying his character. I think I hope
Yeah,
we get
I
to
am too.
see this continue because I think he's a really cool character.
yeah,
Somebody made who was it? Somebody made the joke that he's the sort of the Han Solo of Star Trek. You know, but
he has a
I-
bit of that. He's got a roguish quality
yeah,
to him.
yeah,
You know, he's not above breaking some rules to do the right thing.
yeah,
Also, there it was a fairly short scene, but it was a nice scene between Ensign LaForge and Seven of Nine.
yeah.
Yes.
Where she's basically like, the idea that she wanted to be a pilot, everybody expected to be an engineer like her dad.
Right.
But she's like, I'm kind of like my dad. I don't make friends easily. As you remembered, like Geordi was like inexplicably had trouble making personal connections.
Right.
Not that he would like Data was like his best friend was an android. So
Right. Until he ends up generating a woman in the holodeck.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
we all make mistakes. Let's leave it at that. But but she's like, basically, but when we have friends, we know their value.
Right.
And she calls her Commander 7, which was nice. And
Yes.
also back to Shaw for a moment. Shaw's like says to LaForge and the other officer up in the front of the ship, you've been like on duty 36 hours, get some rest. We're gonna, and it's like he's a captain. I think he's because everybody's from this guy's a dick, when he first shows up, but he's actually a very good captain.
Yes. Yes.
He's a little grumpy, but I mean, think about Picard at the very beginning of TNG. He was kind of grumpy as well.
Yeah.
He's certainly changed over the years. So
my only complaint with Shaw was that was how he treated. Well, I guess there's two complaints. How he treated Riker and Picard when they show up, and you can say no to them without being such a dick. You don't have to. You don't have to insult them. You don't have to be as insulting as he was when they showed up, and still say no.
Well, and I think Keith that there's a story behind that.
Yeah.
Sure, but until we get that story, he was definitely, and then two, and this is probably related to the same story, forcing Seven to use the name the name she was born with, as opposed to the name she's used all her life.
Yeah.
And see, that's that falls into my theory that he's got some personal issue with the Borg.
Yeah, I think that's
and that's partially why he hasn't had an attitude towards Picard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if based, when we did when we were looking at that, when we were looking at the closing credits,
yeah,
we were speculating on the fact of USS Constance.
yes,
USS Constance got lost, and there was a star date there.
Right.
That is the star date of Wolf 359. I learned that in another video.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
So Constance got lost at Wolf 359. I'm sure Shaw was on that ship, and Locutus was in command at Wolf 359
yeah,
of the Borg. So
Yes.
he probably blames Picard for everything. Even so, you are a captain. You're talking to admittedly a retired admiral.
Right.
I still think you have to treat them with a certain degree of respect, even
Well, I
if
mean,
you
he
really
didn't.
don't
He
like
didn't
them.
refuse them like to board the ship. He did like, I think he's like technically within his rights, if not morally.
Right. I agree.
But
Yeah.
I think we resent because these are our heroes, and somebody's
Right.
sort of giving them the bum's rush.
Right.
So we were like, well, who's this guy? But I think
That
I think
said,
he has a
the bum's
reason
bunk
for
bed.
it. So
Yeah.
That said, since the first time we've seen Shaw, though, I have grown to really like him. I think
Oh,
I think
yeah.
you're absolutely right, Chris. He's a good captain, I think.
And here's the thing, too. Okay, so in the beginning, when we watched the first episode, you'll remember we were speculating and saying, boy, it would be really cheap, because in the trailer, you saw this tiny bit of him, and then every other scene seemed to have Riker and Picard on the bridge of the Titan. And so we were like, oh, wouldn't that be really cheap if they like kill him off or injure him or something, and then that happens right away. But they waited to do that.
They did wait to do that. They did it right.
He turns command over to Riker in his typical fashion of saying, you got us into this, you got to get us out.
Yeah.
And it worked for me.
It did. That worked for me as well. That worked for me
again,
well.
I don't think this is the last we'll see of Shaw. I think,
I don't either. Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, I am biased because I know him, so he's a friend of mine. So but he's doing a really excellent job of being this like new addition to the Star Trek lore.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if we didn't see Captain Shaw on some other show.
Perhaps. Yeah. I like him. I like the character.
I don't know the actor, and I still like Shaw.
Right.
There you go. Acting.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack in this episode.
Yeah.
And sort of going a little bit back to the Worf and Rafi segment. They captured this human who is like a underworld figure, like not a boss, but like low level guy. But he's the guy who is responsible for what's going on. Like he has information, and they capture him. And as we say, Worf sort of throws some shade at Rafi's hood ensemble. It draws attention. It's conspicuous.
Yeah.
And there's the great line. It's like, was it like something about like Tuesdays, is beheading. He says Wednesdays are beheadings.
Yeah. Right.
But they capture the guy. They bring him back to the La Sirena and interrogate him. With sort of Worf is ironically the good cop, and Rafi's the bad cop.
Angela says there's someone who doesn't know Todd.
Angela, Leo, introduce me, okay? So I know the guy, all right?
Boy, wouldn't it be fun to have Todd on the show sometime?
It would be lovely. Yes, I would love to do. Even if we could do a short interview, that would be
right. Just do at his convenience.
Yeah.
That would
just
be
putting
neat.
that out there, Todd.
Yeah, throwing it out there. Yeah.
I don't know you, Todd, but do it, please.
Do it
for me. For me. I don't know you, Todd, but do it for me.
Do it for Saber.
Do it for Saber.
Saber.
So there's a. And also, we get to, there was a flashback. We're sort of like picking, choosing and picking these moments. Oh, we'll sort of go back to, I get so distracted. Anyway, so that's when we find out that the founders, or it's a splinter group of changelings who seem hell-bent on revenge against the Federation. And Worf says, I was told about this by an honorable man. And
you have know who that is.
It's Odo.
It's Odo, of course.
Sadly, Rene Bourgeois no longer with us. So unless they CG him, which I think might be creepy, and I kind of hope they don't do that.
I hope they don't either. I'm trying to think how I would feel, because Odo, they've got a built-in excuse to have another actor play Odo.
Yeah.
He's a changeling.
Yeah, Todd was on
he's on the Star Trek cruise.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. I'm in Everett driving a bus 5 days a week. So
why are we not on the Star Trek cruise?
Yeah.
See, this is why people need to sign up with our Patreon.
Yes.
So wait. Do I get a Patreon? No.
We can afford to go on the Star Trek cruise.
We'll have to get a lot of Patreons to do that. But
yeah, it sure would. Yeah.
Knock on wood. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love the idea of the return of the changelings as
Yes, me too.
bad guys. One, because they could be anywhere or anything.
Yeah.
And Worf, after this guy liquefies, then Worf just takes a phaser and just evaporates him.
Yeah.
Because they have to go in a bucket. Or if they're back on the home world, it's like a big sea of I don't know, group sex.
Right.
I don't know what's going on.
Now, there goes the crazy hair again. Woo!
Time to get that hood.
Exactly. Here's my thing about the changelings, and I'm going to go down just a tiny rabbit hole because it's topical.
Sure.
What? Rabbit hole?
They initially, when you look at Odo, and you also look at I've forgotten her name, but sort of the leader.
Yes.
What was her name?
I don't remember. I'm not sure. I'm sure she had a name. I'm ashamed.
But they all had that Odo look.
Yes.
Because it was hard to really replicate the human face for some reason. And now it seems like they can do it like nobody's business.
Well,
but if you remember, there were changeling infiltrators even in Starfleet who looked human. So obvious,
I think they did that partially because they wanted to make Rene Odo look slightly different, like he's not quite, that he is different from everybody else.
Right.
And also, like his age seemed indeterminate because his face was so smooth with that makeup, and he was an older actor, not that at the time, he's not, certainly not, he's not, it was not like an octogenarian, but like he was not a young man. So, but he had kind of an old voice, like not an old man's voice, but he had like a gravitas to him.
Yeah.
So the excuse was that he had trouble doing it. But remember when they found him, he was sort of like he'd been separated from the great.
Yeah, and that's fine, except for the other woman who was the leader of them.
I think she did that to sort of, to not confuse the viewers. And partially, I think she did it to make Odo comfortable.
Okay. Because I don't know if it was ever explained, because I remember the episode you're talking about where they discover there are changelings, back in
Bashir was replaced with one. There was,
yes.
So I
just don't know if they ever explained it. That's all.
I remember them saying it was a skill Odo hadn't acquired yet.
Okay. All right.
So obviously these changelings have that skill.
Yes.
Right.
So I think the changelings are potentially one of the most terrifying, adversaries for the Federation or anybody else, because they can make themselves look like anyone,
Right.
So you like, it's really almost this Cold War thing where like, who do you trust? This has been your best friend. You've been serving on the same ship together for years, and they could be somebody, could not be who you think they are. So it's, I'm excited by the prospect of it, and I love that Deep Space Nine is finally getting a little bit of a nod in the later shows. I mean, they've had a couple of nods, but this is a bigger thing. So, and Worf was on Deep Space Nine for 4 seasons.
Right.
I think he was some of his best work. Not that I disliked it. Not to say I disliked him on Next Gen, but I thought they really got to explore his character more deeply on Deep Space Nine. Ironically enough,
Right.
Yes.
So,
Definitely.
So they we're getting towards. We have about a quarter of an hour left.
Yeah.
They by the end. So they get to the edge. They finally get to the edge of the nebula. They see it. And they're getting ready to warp out, and then the strike shows up and fires this other thing, and it's a portal gun, literally almost like from the game Portal, but writ large. So they go through this thing, and they come back out in the nebula, and then they try it again, and they're back in the nebula.
Right.
And Picard is like, "We've got to take the fight to them. We've got to find a way to fight back." And Riker's like, "I need to get everybody back to their families, and we got to keep the ship safe." Also, we find out that this nebula has a weird anomaly quality to it. The Vulcan science officer was apparently 1/4 Deltan.
I thought that. Yeah.
One of her grandparents was a Deltan, so that
explains her baldness.
Explains her baldness. Although there's got to be bald Vulcans. You got to figure, you know.
I know they all have.
I thought they all have bowl
thick,
haircuts.
lustrous hair, as far as I can see.
Maybe they like to shave their heads. Maybe they're on a swim team or something. What the aerodynamics?
Yeah.
So anyway, so now they're trying to figure out what to do. And Picard is very much, we've got to go on the fence. We've got to stop her right here. And Riker's like, and you see this. There's the beginning of this sort of like conflict between the two of them. In a way that we've never really seen before.
Yes.
So Picard is like insists that he does it. So they get behind the Shrike. He's like, you've got to attack now.
Well, they try to get behind it.
But they do, and they shoot at the Shrike, and then they use the portal gun, and all the phasers of torpedoes that were aimed at the Shrike hit the Titan,
right.
And fuck shit up on the Titan.
Yeah.
And Riker banishes him from the bridge. He's like, you've gotten us all killed.
Right.
Which
was really something, and it makes me think, because of the fact that you've seen such a fantastic relationship and friendship developed between the two of them, that there must be something to why Riker is not being aggressive. And we know we've led into, we've had a clue that there's a little difficulty at home.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, the first episode, he says that Deanna and his daughter would be glad to have him away for a while. And Picard is kind of saying to him, you're being overly cautious, or you're, I forget exactly what he says, but he says something to that effect.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. There's whatever's going on with Riker, I think, has to explain why he blows up that way at Picard, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It doesn't. I mentioned that there were two conflicts in this show.
Right.
One that I bought and I thought was well done, and one not so much. This was the one that, I can get two friends having a disagreement over the best way to move forward. Fine. Right. But it just did not seem like Riker would blow up at Picard that way. Riker's been a captain for a long time now. He knows,
right?
It was ultimately Riker's decision to follow Picard's advice,
right? But that leads me to believe, because I don't think it's bad writing.
No, I don't.
Given
think so.
how well everything else has been written,
right?
So it makes me think that there must be a reason we haven't had unwrapped yet.
I had a thought while you were talking. So we've seen, what if at some point between where the last time we saw Riker being the Riker we know, the jovial pat on your back, which I think when he was talking to a young Picard,
Jack,
Jack, thank you, to Jack. What if sometime between then and when he gets given command on the bridge, he gets swapped out with a changeling?
Interesting.
Ooh, that is an interesting theory, because they haven't captured that guy.
Yeah,
he's still running around. However, Craig does say chain of command and friendship in active conflict do not mix. And of course, Craig was giving us his thoughts last week about chain of command when we were referring to 7 of 9 and Shaw and the way they were interacting on the bridge. So yeah, maybe. But I kind of like Keith's idea.
It could be. When you introduce changelings into the mix, anybody could be a changeling.
Right. Right.
So-
Right.
And that's interesting in the sense that Leo, in the very beginning, you said, I hope that Riker's not compromised.
Yeah. Could be. I don't know. I only said it because she said, "Don't trust Starfleet." So,
Right.
if Starfleet has been infiltrated by changelings,
Right. Yeah.
there's a lot of dangling participles.
There
It's,
are, and we still don't have an idea yet, or nor do I have a theory as to why everybody's trying to get a hold of Jack.
the only thing I can think of, and this is just me spitballing, is
Sure.
he has either the location, he's found something that he doesn't know is important. He has information that he doesn't know is important.
Right.
Or else he's really playing it close to the vest. But I do think that he either knows about something that everybody else wants to know.
Right.
Although Beverly seems to think that it's the fact that he's Picard's son. But again, they're, to what end? Like we need to,
Right.
But I think we will find out. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's not too spelled out, because if you spell everything out, then you're just watching them go through the motions.
Right.
Right.
I like a little mystery thrown in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really fond, probably wrong, but I'm really fond of my lore and Moriarty theory.
Right.
yeah,
But it still doesn't explain the Shrike and Jack. What's going on with Shrike and Jack? And
Right.
I feel like somehow there's still some information I'm missing that's going to tie everything together, and I haven't quite got all that yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we are only on episode 3.
yeah.
True.
And so far, I feel like that things have been unfolding in a very nice pace.
They have.
I
I'm very
agree,
happy
yeah.
with the pace. Nothing really has. No episode has really felt like a filler episode.
Right.
I'm very happy with how this series is progressing so far.
Agreed.
Me
I'm enjoying it. There's, there are two very big storylines. I mean, if you like the Worfy and Raph,
Worfy and Raph. Right. Yeah.
You go ahead. You can say Worfy.
Hey, Worfy. I don't think he'd that might disturb his Zen-like calm.
Yeah, that's true.
But Worf and Rafi's, storyline, and then we have the Titan storyline. So I'm enjoying both quite a bit.
And it's going to be interesting to see how they come together.
Yes.
I mean,
And
my feeling is somehow or other in the next episode, we're going to have to resolve this Nebula fighting with the Shrike.
Yeah, because they're
Right.
now tumbling towards the center of this thing. There were, because there was like some energy discharge, but it also had a biological component. So
Yeah, this is not your normal Captain Kirk's hiding in the nebula.
Right, there's something going on here. I don't know what that is.
I suspect my theory on that, and I have nothing. I'm not as enamored of this theory as I am of the lore.
Yeah,
of the lore of the lore Moriarty theory, but
sure, but throw it out there.
The nebula. I think they've said that the nebula is alive, sort of. I think some way they're going to find they're going to get the nebula's help to escape the Shrike.
Maybe.
I mean, they're falling towards a gravity well. Now, I don't know what that really means. Obviously, they're not happy about that, so it's got to not be good. But maybe that they don't realize that it's not as bad as they think, or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of questions to be answered.
Yes. Yes.
And while I think things might get worse before they get better, I'm pretty sure they're not going to kill off most of our main characters in the next episode.
One would think.
But yeah, no, I'm quite enjoying it. I think it's a big improvement over last season,
right?
Which started out kind of really interesting and then sort of went, sideways.
I think by the time we got to the third episode, things were starting to go sideways.
Yeah, they were.
And
they were. I know
so far.
1 and 2, we were really excited. And then we got to 3, I think, and we started to go, yeah, the show's good, and then it went down from there.
There's no but here for me so far. This is still my favorite episode so far.
Yeah.
And I've liked all the other 2 episodes I've seen, but
I don't know whether I could single it out as my favorite, but it's the whole thing I'm really enjoying. So
don't worry, Chris, I singled it out for you.
There you go.
Well, until next week, and maybe next week will be
and maybe next week will be even better.
Maybe next week will be even better. That's right.
Hey guys, we have 5 minutes left, and I made a promise on the Facebook page that I would talk about this, about how people can get their Trek Tonight t-shirt. And as I mentioned last week, we are calling, taking a cue from PBS and calling March Pledge Month. And that's because we are getting ready to launch our Patreon page. We've always had it, but it was never really set up to the best of its ability. And now if you go on our Patreon page, you can see different levels. Levels start as low as $5. And you get access to our Discord, which we're going to start using on a regular basis, as well as for that entry level, you get our fabled Trek Tonight pin. And then at the next tier, we're giving away those t-shirts. So that's exciting. We've been talking about what bonus content will be available on there. Several ideas we have. One is a theories program. This is a half-an-hour program where folks like Keith and I and Leo get together and spout off our theories about the various shows that we're reviewing, both Mandalorian and Star Trek. There is also going to be watch parties on that only members can see, where given all the information we have about the original series, we will be starting the series and from the beginning, starting with the original pilot and going through sort of I don't know if you remember was it VH1, they had pop-up videos. Well, we're going to be the pop-ups, and we're going to talk about different fun facts about the production of those episodes. So that's another member exclusive. And we'll be talking about the Patreon page over the next 4 episodes over the month. But we would love it if you people out there that love our program and have the means to help support this show, it would be wonderful to check out our Patreon page, see if there is a slot that feels comfortable for you, and throw your support in. And we will guarantee you a bunch of extra bonus stuff for that as our thank you.
Would you say, Saber? Saber says yes, do it.
Oh yeah, that's great. Thank you, Saber.
It'd be nice if Saber shipped in a little. I'm just saying.
Yeah, basically. Well, he's going to throw some catnip in there, I think.
He's going to make me do it, or he's going to throw up on my pillow.
He might do both.
To find our Patreon page, you simply have to get on Patreon and look up Trek Tonight.
We will put a link up on the Facebook page.
Yes, we will. We'll put a link up there to make it easy. But even if you don't have that link, you can get on Patreon. Simply type in Trek Tonight, and you will find us.
Yes.
Right now, all the different tiers are listed. And again, another item that I'm planning on putting up. This is not necessarily Trek or Star Wars related. But I'm also going to once a month, I'm working on a novel, and it is a cyberpunk action adventure story that I wrote a script for years ago, and I'm turning into a novel, and I'm going to post once a month a chapter of the audiobook.
Nice.
That only members will be able to hear. And you might enjoy that. It's kind of a fun story. Mystery takes place in the near dark future, as all cyberpunk does. So. Any rate, that's my spiel for that. Guys, anything else about tonight? Ooh, hey, listen, look at this. Look at this. This will go up in the but there it is.
Nice.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
That was great. But like I say, you can just look up Patreon /Trek Tonight, and you will find it. So, but that will get posted. And let's see here.
By the way, today is Gates McFadden's birthday, so happy birthday to Dr.
Nice. Hey, look, Scott Taylor has an idea.
The nebula is V'ger.
Is it up?
Well, that would be a deep cut, yes.
Yeah. The nebula is V'ger. Yeah. That's kind of cool.
Would be a very deep cut.
It would be a deep cut, but would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because I don't really know what sort of, didn't V'ger just sort of evolve into something?
Yeah, it sort of elevated itself to the next plane of existence. So I don't know if there's anything left, but hopefully we'll find out sooner rather than later, before they escape the nebula. Yes, thank you, Gina.
Live long and prosper, Gina. Yeah. And feel better. Gina's having problems with her arthritis tonight, so the poor thing is aching. But at any rate, so we are pretty much at the end of the show for tonight. Listen, guys, thank you so much for watching. We love having you here. We love your comments. And we love doing this show. Thank you again to my buddy Keith, or our buddy Keith, for filling in for our also dear friend Angela. Dropped in at the last moment with my panicked text on Messenger. Keith, can you do the show? But yeah.
Sure. Saber and I will be happy to do the show.
Yes. It's a package deal.
Yep. Any last minute thoughts before I roll the credits?
Great show. This was the Picard episode. God, look at all the hair. Look at all this.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that.
Setting.
Look at that.
It's a cat hair nebula.
It's a cat hair nebula. That's right.
I love the show. It was a good show. It was, like I said, it was my favorite episode of Picard so far. Worf! Worf!
What he said.
Hey, that's showbiz, baby.
Yes.
So, anywho, hey, Eric, we've been making Eric crack up all night. I've got laughy faces from him going all night long. At any rate, so, yeah, I'm really glad you made me do this, Keith. This is great. Nerd alert. Nerd alert. This is going to be a regular feature of our show. I love it. Nerd alert. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to roll us out of here.
Okay.
Everybody have a wonderful week. We will
Goodbye,
see
everybody.
you back here on Trek Tonight on Thursday. We will see you on Wednesday, the day before, on the Mandalorian program. And it's interesting. Right before we go, I just want to say, I realized this when I was watching Picard this morning. Doing Star Wars one night and the next night doing Star Trek really gives you a interesting perspective. And maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later on in the week about the differences between the approach of Star Trek and the approach of Star Wars.
I agree. Yeah.
So think about that, guys, because by seeing them back to back like that, one right after the other, it does make you see what the differences are.
Yeah. That might be a bonus episode.
It might be a bonus episode. Exactly. It might be member content.
Yes.
At any rate, guys, have a wonderful week. We love you all, and live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Good night, everyone.